Hey there, it's Red. Welcome back to the garden. Today we're going to do another round of repotting plants throughout the backyard. Here's a couple of snippets of some of the end products that we'll see, and I hope you stick around to see them all get done. First up, we have a giant Acaveria from a buddy of mine who moved out of town a few months ago. You'll see a lot of his plants throughout these videos because I'm trying to incorporate them into my own collection now, and a lot of them are a little rough because they got knocked around in the move. This one fell over in the truck as I was making a turn, so some of the big arms fell off. As you can see, some of the soil also fell out. So I'm going to take out some of these longer arms and salvage them later. And then I'm going to take out some of the roots, some of the weeds and some of the debris, and then fill it in with new dirt to add about 4 inches into this pot to let the roots regrow on the top because I'm pretty sure it's very root bound. And one of the great things about succulents is you can bury almost the entire plant in soil and roots will grow off of almost any part of the plant. You don't have to worry about suffocating it or drowning it out like you would a woody plant like a tree or a shrub or something like that, where you don't want to cover the trunk in any amount of soil. And then I'm going to reposition the long arms back in the back there and have them drape over the front, throw some new soil on top to hold it down, and then finally place the geode back where it was. And here's the finished product. I'm going to place this one on our front stoop as you walk up to our front door. And I didn't get a video of it, unfortunately. Next up, we have the potted cacti forest. That's from one of the first videos I ever did. And it's been probably like 9 months since I did this, and over time, the paddles have started to lean towards each other. They're not standing up straight anymore, and I've also had to pull some out because they've died. So I'm just gonna go back in there, re-straighten them out, add some new soil for structural reasons on the bottom, and then I'm also going to add some sand on the very top just for aesthetic reasons to make it look like it's grown out in the desert. Adding sand or rocks or mulch into potted plants really just makes them look finished and more like an art piece and less like a messy mess sitting on your shelf there. Because over time perlite can float to the surface, rocks can start to form, and it just can look messy. But putting something on top just makes it look finished and intentional and beautiful. For this arrangement, I knew I wanted to use this cool pot that I had. And I had all these other kind of succulents that are looking bad, and I didn't know what to put in it. And then I had this mutated succulent that I got from a client's house that I absolutely love. So this type of mutation is called Fasciation or cresting, and it's where instead of growing stems, it just starts to grow wide and flat and buds out a lot on the top. It's pretty common in succulents, and I've also seen it happen in flowers, but I've never seen it happen in actual woody plants like shrubs or trees. But if you have, please leave a comment down below and tell me what kind of plants you've seen it in. To me, this mutated succulent looks like a tree, so I wanted to add another succulent below it that kind of looks like a bush, so as if it's just like a big tree in a yard with a bush growing below. And then I also added some sand on this one as well. That's going to be a common trend throughout this video because that's all I had on hand when I was filming these videos. And on to the next one, we have this giant arrangement of Haworthiopsis that I actually got from my sister when she moved up to LA. And it's just been growing and growing and growing, and it's just bursting out of this pot. So now I'm going through and pulling off all the spent blooms. The blooms on this plant usually last for about 3 to 4 months. You can see there's still a couple left on the bottom left of the screen. The hummingbirds absolutely love these flowers, and I love watching them try to get them as they sway in the wind and just kind of get out of their reach for a second. It's just one of the best things about this plant. With this guy all cleaned up, it's time to move on to the pot that's going to be its new home. Right now, this elephant bush jade is just a mishmash of stuff at the base of it. It's things that I have pulled off of other arrangements or that have fallen off, and I didn't want to get rid of them, so I plopped them in here. I've tried to fill it in with this succulent here just to create like a green base at the bottom of the plant, and it just has not worked. So I really think that the Haworthiopsis will finally complete this vision for this pot that I've had for so long. This Calandrinia grandiflora almost was it, but they just died. And I knew that over time they would actually get massive, so it wasn't the best long-term solution for the pot. Now I'm going through and cutting off the suckers from the trunk of this jade plant and then getting the soil prepped so I can place this sculpture that I just got as kind of a centerpiece of this pot along with the stained glass. In an ideal world, I could just plop this guy right in there, throw some dirt on it, and call it a day, but gardening is never easy. So what I gotta do is cut it apart and try to mishmash it all together to fill in as much space as possible without damaging the roots too much. But luckily, succulent roots are super durable and they can go through any tearing, cutting, really anything for the most part, as long as you're not just drenching it in water. The jade is super root bound in here too, so what I'm doing is I'm kind of just cutting up the top layer of soil, getting rid of those roots so I can put in some fresh soil and put in the succulent. And just like that, the last one is placed. It's time just to do a little cleanup and then move up and start trimming out the canopy of this jade plant. I've been shaping this jade plant for probably like 4 years now, and it only needs to be trimmed once every like 6 to 8 months. It's very overdue right now, but how I'm approaching it is pretty much how you would approach trimming out a citrus tree, an apple tree, a rose bush. I'm going through and getting rid of any long reachers I don't want, any crisscrossing branches, anything that just makes it too dense. You know, just cleaning it up and giving it a really nice structure. With it all cleaned up, it's time to put it back in its home. Absolutely stunning. This next one's going to be a quick one. Again, it's from a buddy of mine who moved out of town. No idea what this plant is. I've never really seen anything like it at any of the nurseries I go to. And instead of ripping it apart and possibly killing it, I just decided to pull out some of the dead stuff on top, dead stuff on the stem, and just give it a fresh helping of soil. I bet you can guess where this plant came from. If you guessed my friend that moved out of town, you're right. This one and the one to the right are both from him. I've kind of just let them ride for a while, but it's time to kind of condense everything together, make some more space in the yard, and create an arrangement that's worthy of being in the yard. As usual, we're adding in some new soil into the bottom of the pot. Then I'm also going to take the root ball off of this plant that has definitely seen better days, but I'm choosing things that have more of a tall growth structure to them. Throw them on one pot and kind of create almost like a bouquet of flowers, except it's a bouquet of succulents that were neglected. With the healthier ones in, it's time to put in the last one, and it's pretty much dead, but I don't like giving up on plants, so I'm just going to take off all the dead leaves and stick it in here, and hopefully it starts to root and bud out again. So switching it up to a plant that isn't from my friend, it is a ponytail palm that has, I think, like 15 or 18 individual bulbs in the plant. I love the way this one grows. I got it at a little local nursery greenhouse that's up in North County, San Diego. It was like $5 when I got it, and I stuck it in this pot and have just let it grow slowly because they do grow really slowly over time. About once a year I'll go through and pull off some of the dead fronds on each of them and just kind of give it some more space so you can actually see the bulbs in there. It kind of looks like a Pokemon. I don't know the name of the Pokemon, but I always think about when I was a kid I had a card that looked just like this plant. Over time, some of the perlite and pumice has kind of come to the surface, and what I'm going to do is knock it all out, bring down the dirt about an inch so I can fill it up with sand, and then use the blower to clean out any dust that's left in there. I'm super happy with how this one turned out. I love when you can see the bulbs. I think the sand really makes it pop and makes it look a lot cleaner. And on to what feels like the 700th arrangement of the day. This is a type of orchid that my old neighbor, when I lived down by the beach in San Diego, gave to me. It was one little piece, the one on the left. I'm getting rid of the aloe on the right. It was just one little piece, and it has this really delicate little purple bloom to it that also attracts hummingbirds and butterflies and all the pollinators in the garden. But I want to get rid of the aloe plant and just give this orchid some space to grow and thrive. You can see the leaves are kind of damaged. It has some nutrient deficiency. It just needs to be in its own pot so it can really live its fullest life. I think this took the prize for being the most root-bound plants of the day. You can see that I just ripped out a ton of the old roots in there. A lot of them were just dead, and this just will help the plant have more space to grow new roots. So once it's in the pot, I get some soil back in there, and then I'm going to take some of the cuttings that kind of fell off, and I kind of broke off, let's be honest, and just stick them back in there. And here it is back atop the large pot next to the ficus tree. I have high hopes for this plant, and I can actually see this little area of the garden right from my office window. So as I've been going through the different arrangements today and getting rid of some stuff and consolidating things, I came up with these two aloes that need a new home. So I decided to make another aloe bouquet, kind of like the one you see in the background on the left right there. This tall one I got from a client's house. The little dead red one that's in front of the pot I got from my friend that, moved out of San Diego recently. And then the one on my right, on my left, on your right, I also got from a different client's house. But they all have really cool growth patterns to them, so I think that they will conjoin nicely in this pot. And here it is in its home in the garden. At this point, I really needed a break from thinking and trying to make new arrangements, so I have this one that I actually gave to my girlfriend as a present like 3 years ago, and it's just very overgrown in this pot. You can see the root ball is just one solid piece, so all I'm doing is taking it out of the little pot, putting it in a cooler new ceramic pot, and well, not really new, but new to it, ceramic pot, that hopefully everything can continue to grow and thrive and not get crowded out. It felt right to put the chia head in this one, and I love the way he's kind of just poking around the Eonium, and I think he'll be very happy in his new home right here in the garden. And for the thorniest arrangement of the day, we have this crown of thorns plant that I've been taking care of for probably 7 years. I found it on the side of the road when I was driving home one day. It was super dead. It was in a peat moss pot just sitting on the curb. Grabbed it, threw it in some dirt, threw it in a bigger pot, and it flourishes. It blooms nonstop. It just has a bad habit of getting filled with weeds, and since it's so thorny, weeding it is such a task that I let it get overgrown. But it just felt like today was the day to get in there, get the leather gloves on, pull out all the weeds, give it some new soil, and give it a little water. I think this is a perfect example of how a little bit of weeding can go such a long way. It looked so ratty before, and now it just looks like a brand new plant. It looks so much greener, and it just is going to be so much happier. And we're finally to the last plant that's going to get some TLC in today's video. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching the video. If you haven't already, please like it and subscribe to the channel. I go through repottings in my backyard, planting new plants in the backyard, new arrangements in the backyard. I also go through mature plant trimming at some of my clients' houses, and I also do yard tours. So this plant was a plant that was in the backyard of the last house I rented, super neglected, half dead in this pot. So I started nurturing it there and brought it with me when I moved into this new house to have like a legacy from that house and something that I can carry with me going forward. I've done that from every house that I've lived in so far since I was 10 years old. So I gave this one the same treatment I gave the ponytail palm, and I added some sands into the bottom of it as well, just to make it all kind of pop out of this green pot with the soil. Everything was just looking kind of lost, but now you can really see the sculpture nice and easily. And again, I can also see this one from my office window, so I look at it every day and I love it. Thanks again for sticking around for the whole video. See you in the next one.